Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Today's story isn't just about oil. It's about how a single geopolitical move can ripple straight through engines, supply chains, and showroom floors worldwide. Venezuela's long-running sanctions saga has suddenly shifted into a higher gear, with Washington stepping in and effectively putting its hands on the valves controlling Venezuelan crude. When oil flows change, everything downstream feels it, from fuel prices and logistics to how automakers plan their next powertrain bets. Buckle up, because what looks like a political headline is actually a mechanical shock to the global system. And here are the developments. From sanctions to survival, Venezuela's oil system under siege. For years, Venezuela has been running like an engine starved of clean fuel. Sanctions didn't just limit exports, they choked the entire financial lubrication system that keeps an oil economy moving. Dollar access vanished, banks stepped back, insurers disappeared, and even simple transactions became high-risk maneuvers. With oil accounting for the vast majority of export revenue, this was like cutting spark and airflow at the same time. Despite sitting on roughly 303 billion barrels of proven reserves, the largest on the planet, Venezuela couldn't fully convert that underground wealth into usable cash flow. So it improvised. Crude was rerouted through opaque shipping networks, trades were settled through alternative mechanisms, and the country became a living test bench for operating outside Western financial infrastructure. That experiment escalated sharply in January 2026. The U.S. capture of President Nicolas Maduro flipped Venezuela from a workaround economy into ground zero for a geopolitical showdown. Suddenly, oil wasn't just revenue, it was leverage. And for industries tied to mobility and transportation, the tremors were unavoidable. But improvisation alone doesn't decide outcomes, control does. And that's where Washington stepped in. Washington's barrel strategy: who controls the oil winds? After Maduro's removal, Washington shifted from blocking Venezuela's oil to actively shaping where it goes. Instead of closing the taps, the U.S. signaled it would redirect crude flows and oversee revenues. Tens of millions of barrels once locked behind sanctions were suddenly pointed toward U.S. ports, boosting supply while limiting Venezuela's freedom to choose buyers. This move matters because Venezuelan crude is heavy and complex. It needs blending, specialized storage, and aging infrastructure to keep flowing. Think of it like a high-compression engine that only runs with the right supporting hardware. Control those choke points, and you control the outcome. Financial oversight followed. By placing Venezuelan oil revenues under U.S. protection, Washington effectively positioned itself between the barrels and the balance sheet. Short-term, this pushed prices down. Long-term, it injected uncertainty. For automakers, that mix can quietly tilt consumer demand back toward larger ICE vehicles, while simultaneously nudging production costs upward beneath the surface. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like button and subscribe. It helps Piston Pundit reach more auto enthusiasts who want to understand what's really happening beneath the headlines. Now, while Washington was redirecting barrels, another major player was quietly recalibrating how to keep its system running. Beijing adjusts gears, refiners adapt as finance shifts. China's response to the disruption was pragmatic, not confrontational. As Venezuelan shipments slowed, independent Chinese refiners moved quickly to replace heavy crude with alternatives from Iran, Russia, and other suppliers. The lesson was familiar. When one supply route closes, refineries don't shut down. They reroute. Floating storage and redirected cargoes acted as buffers, keeping plants running while sourcing strategies adjusted in real time. But the more important shift sits behind the barrels. Over the past decade, Beijing has quietly expanded cross-border payment systems that allow energy trade to settle outside traditional Western financial rails. Venezuela's oil flows may fluctuate, but the architecture supporting non-dollar trade continues to harden. This doesn't overthrow the dollar overnight. It chips away at reliance, deal by deal. For automakers, that evolution matters. Currency settlement shapes energy pricing, shipping costs, and supplier contracts. As alternative systems gain traction, procurement strategies shift, costs move, and pricing assumptions change. And once you follow the money, you quickly realize oil isn't the only strategic resource in play anymore. Moscow and minerals, the EV supply chain undercarriage. Oil grabs the spotlight, but minerals quietly decide the future of mobility. Modern vehicles, especially EVs and hybrids, depend on steady access to nickel, cobalt, graphite, and rare earths that underpin motors, batteries, and power electronics. Venezuela's importance stretches beyond crude into mineral-rich terrain that has long drawn outside interest. When economies are under pressure, resource-heavy states often trade long-term access for short-term stability, locking in partnerships that reshape supply chains for years. Russia's footprint in Venezuela follows that logic. It's not just about immediate revenue, it's about positioning within energy and materials networks. For automakers, this matters because the EV transition is now constrained less by design brilliance and more by material availability. Political shocks in producer regions translate into price swings, delayed deliveries, and strategic pivots. The shift toward hybrids, diversified chemistries, recycling, and regional sourcing reflects one reality: geopolitics now rides shotgun with engineering. But even with materials secured and money rerouted, the pressure doesn't disappear. It lands somewhere familiar. Sanctions-proof trade: why drivers always pay more. Long before 2026, sanctioned oil survived through creative logistics. Ship-to-ship transfers, relabeled cargoes, shadow fleets, and opaque ownership structures became standard ways to keep exports moving. These tactics didn't disappear with stronger U.S. involvement. They collided with tighter enforcement designed to push oil through approved channels. The result is a constant tug-of-war between regulation and evasion, with neither side gaining full control. On the financial side, blocked banking routes forced experimentation. Non-dollar settlements, alternative rails, and layered workarounds allow trade to continue under pressure. No single system replaces the old order, but together they keep flows alive, at a cost. That cost eventually reaches drivers. Fuel prices swing on headlines, shipping uncertainty inflates freight costs, and battery material volatility reshapes EV pricing and availability. Drivers may never hear about payment rails or legal custody of oil revenue, but they pay at the pump and on the contract. Which brings us to the bigger picture: what all of this means for cars. Verdict: oil wars morph into global car supply battles. Venezuela has become the clearest proof that energy power isn't just about drilling. It's about who controls the pipes, shipping lanes, payment rails, legal custody of revenues, and the terms that rebuild or strip an industry. The January 2026 U.S. intervention, followed by redirected barrels and protected revenues, shows Washington is chasing leverage beyond classic sanctions. China's refiners will keep adapting, rerouting heavy crude while parallel financial infrastructure continues to mature. For the auto world, the takeaway is blunt. Expect echoes through fuel prices, logistics costs, and EV material supply. That means shifting powertrain mixes, tighter procurement strategies, and more emphasis on resilience over optimization. Now, your turn. Does a fragmented, multipolar energy system make car markets more resilient or permanently volatile? Will material constraints slow EV adoption faster than technology can accelerate it? How should automakers balance hybrids, EVs, and ICE as geopolitics reshape supply? Before you go, subscribe to Piston Pundit to get notified about the next vehicle updates and upcoming videos. Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Thanks for watching, and check out the videos on screen. There's plenty more to explore.